The game never stops, and neither do we. Welcome to the SDH Network. We're always around the corner from everywhere, and it's time for another edition of the Morning Espresso, brought to you by Oglethorpe University, Atlanta's premier undergraduate learning experience and soccer powerhouse. I'm Jason Longshore. Bear with me for just a minute before we get into MLS SuperDraft, AFCON, everything else on today's rundown. I want to start with something that has gotten my brain rolling since yesterday. Yeah, I'm going to tie a professional wrestling reference into this a little bit. It's the way that John Cena said something yesterday that has really stuck with me. So if you're not a wrestling fan, and I am, I can't say I'm hardcore. I watch sometimes. John Cena, he wrapped up his final WWE appearance over the weekend, closed a 2-decade career as one of the biggest stars the sports entertainment realm has ever seen. A whole bunch of world championships. He crossed over into movies, and he's a star there. He helped define an entire era and then probably a second era as well. What stood out about him that crosses over into this space is not just on his final night, the nostalgia of it, but the intention of it. Now, as you know, it is sports entertainment, and there are storylines and all these sorts of things. So it's John Cena's final night, and he said very clearly he didn't want it to be purely just about him. Of course, he's going to wrestle, and there's a storyline to it. But he wanted to use that final night as an opportunity to get young talent, quote, around the noise, unquote. And he talked about how earlier in his career, when he got an opportunity to be on the same card or be on the same show or be around the mega stars of that time, the noise, it's different. It feels different. And he wanted to use his final night as an opportunity to expose potential new stars down the road to that noise. Not just a loud crowd, but the level of noise, the kind that you don't forget, the kind that becomes a motivation, the kind that recalibrates how you see yourself and what you think is possible for yourself. Put young performers next to the very top. Let them feel it. Let them feel what it's like. And then suddenly they've got something very real to chase. Pretty similar to our soccer world, right? Young players don't just need training. They need exposure. They need moments. They need to feel the speed, the pressure, the stakes when they're ready, so that when the real opportunity arrives, it doesn't overwhelm them. You heard that recently from Enzo Dovlo, Atlanta United SuperDraft pick, talking about how the NCAA tournament sharpened him and getting that exposure. You heard it earlier this week from Jose Silva when we talked to him about development pathways and preparing players for the next level. Development's not linear. It's not just about reps. It's about timing. It's about experience, and it's about exposure to the noise. That thread runs through today's show. SuperDraft, AFCON, roster decisions happening around the game. Let's get into it. We'll start with the 2026 MLS SuperDraft. DC United selected NC State center back Nikola Markovic with the number 1 overall pick. He's a Generation Adidas signing. All of the top 4 picks were underclassmen signed to Generation Adidas contracts. Markovic, the resume is impressive. He helped NC State get to their first ever NCAA national championship match, started every match. His defense conceded just 13 goals all season, 15 clean sheets, first-team All-American honors, a great center back. Really interested to see how he translates to the next level. Then the story became some business for Atlanta United. They held the number 2 pick. They chose to trade it to FC Dallas, picking up $400,000 in general allocation money and the number 12 pick. Dallas used that number 2 pick to go for Ricky Lewis out of Georgia Southern. Then Nick Simmons from Virginia was 3. Atlanta went to work at 12. They selected Enzo Dovlo from UNC Greensboro. You can go and read the feature on him at soccerdownhere.net. You can also go to our Instagram and our YouTube and check out the clip from his media availability yesterday with a few questions that I asked him. His career arc is exactly what Atlanta United likes. He was a 3-year starter at UNCG. Production grew every season. 15 goals, 13 assists across his career, with 10 goals and 8 assists in 2025. First team All-SoCon, third team All-America, NCAA tournament exposure. They lost to NC State in the round of 16. This is a really interesting player who I think can project to the next level. I called a couple of his games in the SoCon tournament. I shared some of those highlights on my X account yesterday. Really impressed with, I think, the potential for Dovlo. I like what he does in the 1v1 situations. He talked about how he's improved his right foot. He's a lefty, but he's improved his right foot, so he's not quite as predictable. His passing range was impressive. His dribbling was very impressive. And the fact that he played his first season at UNCG as a fullback is also impressive. He talked about the two-way nature of his game. But he talked about the NCAA tournament and how those games felt different. They were faster. They were sharper. There was less margin for error. That's that next level kind of revealing itself a little bit. Atlanta also added Noah James from the University of San Diego in the third round. James brings experience. He's got 60 college appearances across Western Michigan and San Diego, track record of production and winning environments. We'll see where James fits in. Dovlo, I think, is absolutely a guy that I'm intrigued to see if he can win opportunities in preseason with the first team. It wasn't a flashy night for Atlanta United. They traded out of the number 2 pick, but it was a process night. Trade down, get those resources, and still get players you believe in and keep pathways open. I liked the move trading down, and it's no disrespect to Ricky Lewis, who I think has a lot of potential as that number 2 pick. He's a little more of a 9 and a similar 9 to what you already have in Jamal Tiare and Latte Lat. So it wouldn't have made sense, in my opinion, if you went with him and other guys. I don't think there was a player worth $400,000 in allocation money. So I think some of the criticism of trading down there is just completely unfounded. You got more allocation money than you would have spent for the player that was selected there. So then you win the move, right? And you go down 10 picks and you get Dovlo, who I think could be an interesting revelation here. I'm excited to see what Enzo Dovlo can do. He was one who really impressed me in my college games that I did over the fall. It's also worth highlighting how strong the local ties are in this draft. Ricky Lewis, who I mentioned, comes out of Georgia Southern, a former walk-on. Now he's a Generation Adidas signing. Justin McLean, the former Atlanta United Academy player, Georgia State standout. He transferred to NC State, went to a national championship with them. He went 15th overall to the Portland Timbers. And another Georgia Southern midfielder who I really enjoyed seeing a couple times this year, Kevin Pierre. He went in the second round to NYCFC. This region keeps on producing players. Sometimes they go directly into Atlanta's system. Sometimes they go elsewhere. Pipeline's real, and days like that reinforce it. Some MLS moves worth hitting outside of the draft. Austin FC made a significant move. They acquired Jaden Nelson from Vancouver. Nearly $1.25 million in general allocation money spread across 2 seasons, plus a first-round SuperDraft pick. It's a clear signal of how Austin values Nelson and what they see he can give them in 2026 and beyond. Vancouver, they lock in some stability at goalkeeper. They re-signed Yohei Takaoka through June of 2027. He's been excellent. Clean sheets, trophies, got them to the final this year. Retaining him, very, very important. Keep an eye on DC United as well. Tom Bogert of The Athletic reporting that DC is nearing a deal for Sean Nealis of the New York Red Bulls. Would be a big defensive boost to go along with Markovic, their first pick, and another sign of some of the roster churn for the Red Bulls under new coach Michael Bradley. Let's go to the NWSL. Feels like a big crossroads is really starting to develop here. The biggest off-field story going on at the moment is the standoff between the NWSL and their Players Association around Trinity Rodman and re-signing her. The league proposed a new high-impact player rule that would allow teams to spend up to $1 million outside of the salary cap on select star players. The NWSLPA pushing back on that. They're arguing that this interferes with free agency, creates an artificial classification of who can earn what. The union is proposing just raise the team salary cap by $1 million and then let clubs decide how to spend it. At the center of this is Trinity Rodman. Her contract is up at the end of the calendar year. Teams could go ahead and sign her in other parts of the world to a pre-contract. It seems like she is trying to wait this out to see if she'll be able to stay in NWSL, which is a good sign for the league, good sign for potentially the Washington Spirit. But they tried to sign her to a new deal. It was outside of the rules that the NWSL had at the time. The new contract was blocked. There is an active grievance filed by the NWSLPA about that decision. So that still has to get resolved. The NWSL has to figure out what they want to do with the cap and the rules. You can't make this about just one player, though. It's about how the league uses this moment to structure their future, how they compete with Europe, both to keep players from going over there and also to bring players in from over there. It's also about how much control players have over their own market. However it shakes out, it's going to have long-term consequences for the league, and Atlanta's coming into the league in a couple of years. Let's go to AFCON. The African Cup of Nations begins on Sunday in Morocco. They enter as the favorite after their World Cup semifinal run in 2022. Their fringe players just won the Arab Cup yesterday. They have an 18-match winning streak going on right now. Senegal, Egypt, Nigeria, Algeria all arrive with quality, but all arrive with pressure on them. 24 teams, 9 stadiums, 6 cities, 4 weeks of hopefully some chaos, some drama, some brilliance. This is a tournament that has a way of tearing up the predictions that are made ahead of time. Form matters, moments matter more. And for a lot of players, it's another example of that exposure to the noise, stepping into pressure that can change their careers forever. You'll be able to watch this tournament on BN Sports here in the U.S. If you don't have BN through your current packages, you can get it through Fanatiz, FNTZ.co/soccer down here. And if you subscribe, that actually helps Soccer Down Here a little bit. So we're big fans of Fanatiz and everything that they do. I've been a subscriber for a decade plus now. Let's go look ahead to the weekend, and we'll go to England first. Tottenham hosting Liverpool, Everton facing Arsenal, with the Gunners chasing the top spot at Christmas. Aston Villa, their home form gets tested by Manchester United. They're feeling the impact of AFCON absences. We zero out a little bit to the world at large, and Saudi Arabia's 2034 World Cup planning is facing some early questions. Reports of stadium designs being revised, costs being scaled back. There's time, there's plenty of it, but it's a reminder sometimes that the ambition and the reality don't always move at the same speed, even in a country like Saudi Arabia. U.S. Soccer, they outlined their weighted lottery system for World Cup tickets, with FIFA PMA codes going out in January, applications open until the 13th. This is for the specific allocations of tickets to teams that are participating. I think it's 8% of the tickets for every game goes to one of the teams that is participating. To wrap it up, exposure matters. We talk about access a lot, and of course access is the number one step, but then exposure is huge. Whether it is somebody like Solruka or Obafemi, getting that exposure to the noise on John Cena's last show, whether it's a college player stepping into the NCAA tournament and dealing with that kind of noise. Sometimes it's internal noise, but it's noise. A draft pick getting a pro opportunity, an international player carrying a nation at AFCON. These moments shape belief. The noise can be an absolute positive thing. Training builds the skill. Experience builds the confidence. And when that door finally opens, the players who have already heard the noise, they don't hesitate. They step right through it. That'll do it for this edition of the Morning Espresso. The game never stops, neither do we. Thank you to Oglethorpe University for supporting another big week of the Morning Espresso. Take the weekend off, and we'll be back on Monday to wrap it all up for you ahead of Soccer Over There on Monday night from the Brewhouse Cafe. Y'all have a good weekend. We'll be talking soon.